Hello, we're TechGo. We're a company that thrives on innovation with just a touch of simple. We want to be the most innovative product on the market, but still easy enough for our consumers to use on a daily basis. I'm going to pass it over to Houston, who's going to talk a little bit about the market share.
I'm Houston Johnson. I'm the VP of Sales and also helped out with the financial aspects. As you can see, in Q3, we were the only ones to open up in Paris, so we did pretty well with the total market share. We had 26% of the total market share, 71% of the Mercedes market share, and 36% of the Traveler market share. As we moved on to Q4, other companies started moving to Paris, and so that led us to decrease down to 43% of the Mercedes market share and 30% of the Traveler market share, which is 20% of the total market share. The key factors to the market share was the right market entry. We want the right product in the right market at the right time. And we also wanted to have an innovative product for our customers who wanted to meet their needs and wants as timely as possible. And then the right advertising scheme. We wanted to have the right ads in the right place at the right time for the right price, which leads us to the right price. We want to have the optimal price so that'll lead to increased profits in the future. And I'll hand it over back to David.
Thanks, Houston. Just like Houston touched on, the customer evaluation, we wanted to go for the high-end consumers, the ones that were the innovators, the ones that really waited outside the tech store to purchase the top computer that just got released. Because of that, we maximized our profits by selling it at the highest price that they're willing to pay, which Ellie and Andrew will touch on later. And according to competition, we really had a bunch of competitors like Houston touched on also that entered the Paris market in Q4, which really decreased our market share. The biggest competitor that we saw was Lifecore. The reason that we thought they were the biggest competitor, not only because they had the highest market share, is because they entered all three markets by Q4. They entered the Mercedes, the Traveler, and the Workhorse, which really captured all possible aspects of consumers. They had the highest market share because of that, and they really aggressively started to grow their company by ad placement, by entering the markets, by entering global markets really fast. The second biggest competitor that we saw was Lightning Tech, eating up the lower consumers with the Workhorse and the Traveler. They really set, they kind of ate all that market share up. They set their prices low, which they were really price conscious about that. Creating their company with producing their products at the lowest price and charging the lowest price possible was by still making revenue, which was a very conservative market approach, why they were placing their ads in the right place without spending the most amount of money. What I did was a personal SWOT analysis on our company. Our strengths were brand recognition, like Houston touched on also, was because we entered the Paris market and the only competitor to do so, we had great brand recognition. And because of that, we had great market share in Paris. We could charge what we wanted, and we had 71% of the Mercedes, which were our bread and butter. And because of the market share and we could charge what price we wanted, we really thrived on our revenues and kept trying to keep our costs low. Weaknesses were advertising. We really did not spend as much advertising in the earlier quarters as we thought. Ad placement wasn't as great, which Andrew would touch on later. And future investments, because of our revenues, we try to keep our profits as high as possible, which we didn't really invest in our company the way we should have, which way we are going to in the future. And market penetration. We're going to penetrate every global market possible. Opportunities is to gain more market share in the global markets and to be a more innovative product, which we are going to invest in R&D, and the company potential to grow exponentially through the global markets. And the threats is our competition, like we touched on in the slide previous, is really make sure that our competitors don't come in and undercut our prices and steal our customer loyalty, which is another weakness of ours, and try to steal our customers away from us. Now I'm going to hand it over to Andrew, who's going to talk more about the advertising.
I'm Andrew, I'm VP of Marketing. And the first thing I'd like to talk about when it comes to marketing is brand management. Now, in brand management, you kind of have to prioritize what your main focus is going to be on among the different types of laptop computers or desktop computers. For us, we chose to prioritize the Mercedes brand, which we call the Experience, at the very top, because the per unit profit of the Mercedes is $1,901, while our secondary brand, the Traveler, which we call the Wanderer, is 1,336. So therefore, we thought it would be more advantageous to focus on the Mercedes. We are among industry leaders and consumer thoughts about our products, like what we invest in our products, how good our products are. We are at the very top of the list among both Mercedes and Traveler when it comes to our competition. This quarter, we have decided to invest heavily in research and development. And the things that we decided to research more heavily were a better battery for our computers, a better hard drive, and better networking. And we believe that this will not only affect our top seller, the Mercedes, but also affect the other two brands that we have created as well. Next, I'd like to talk about pricing and advertising. Now, 95% of consumers think that our Mercedes price is completely reasonable and are willing to pay it. Now, it's not 100%, and we're okay with losing that 5% because our price is $4,000 a unit, where our competitors who have 100% price satisfaction is only $3,700. So we're getting a huge leg up on the competition while only losing 5% of the whole consumer base for the Mercedes. And for the Traveler, we have 100% consumer satisfaction with our prices, which we are okay with having the full 100% and having a little bit lower price, because we're never going to make as much money from the Traveler per unit as we would with the Experience. And this quarter, we really focused on increasing our advertising, not only how much we're spending in advertising, but the places we're putting it and the things we're putting in our advertisement. And we benchmarked what we were doing with the industry leaders in this. And we more so focused on the Mercedes because that's where we were falling behind in advertising, where we're actually industry leaders in our Traveler brand. And next, I'd like to pass it over to our VP of Manufacturing. Thank you.
I'm Ruby, and I'm going to talk a bit about our manufacturing strategy. First, we have increased factory productivity. We achieve this by increasing our factory workers' wages, and we make sure to keep their compensation well above industry average in every aspect. And then increased capacity. We have increased capacity to meet the current and future demand needs, which has been rising every quarter. And lastly, we have minimized inventory, and we try to keep the balance of having zero ending inventory and also minimizing stockouts. And we want to minimize our holding costs by holding the least amount of inventory possible. Now a little bit about our sales. We opened up and fully staffed our sales offices globally and make sure to incentivize the sales personnel to drive demand. And we also opened up in Paris in Q1, Chicago in Q2, and Shanghai in Q3. And I'll touch a little bit about human resources because that directly affects manufacturing. We keep the salaries competitive to be able to keep up with the demand, try to keep factory productivity up, and we set salaries for the factory supervisors higher than the factory workers. Now I'll send it over to the VP of Sales, Houston.
From a financial perspective, we are seeking a $5 million investment in exchange for 60% of our company. From the $5 million investment, we are asking for a share price of $105 per share. We chose $105 per share because we, as previous investors, already invested at $100 per share. We chose 105, and we thought it was reasonable given the state of our current company. With a $105 investment, this gives you, the investor, a 967% return on investment. In the next 3 quarters, we are opening a new brand in the workhorse sector called The Brute, modifying our existing brands, opening new sales office, and are expecting a large increase in demand. In doing so, we plan to generate $12,565,071 in net income over the next 3 quarters. We at TechGo try not to take out any bank loans to create any debt or invest in any CDs and have our company's money tied up. And now I hand it over to Ellie, the VP of Accounting.
Hi, I'm Ellie, the VP of Accounting, and I'm going to start with talking a little bit about the cash flow statement, since everything in a company relates to cash, what our company is investing in, what we're using to finance, and what our operations are like. So first, the first line is revenues across the top, and you can see that continues to get greater as we proceed to quarter 6, but then right below that on production, that also is increasing, which is driving a negative into our cost of goods sold. So the production comes from things like what we're paying our salary, what our factory workers are making, what our salespeople are making, and what they are able to produce per every quarter. Also, in our research and development expenses, you can see that hits a peak in quarter 4, and that's because what David talked about in our executive summary. We're a simple but dependable company, and we want to start with what really drives the product of its hardware with the battery life, the actual hardware, and then moving into later quarters where we're working on the outside of the product where it's more stylish, more thin, things like that. So on our next statement, the income statement, you can see that we had a negative net income in quarter 4, which is really driven by that R&D that we invested in that same quarter. But you can see in quarter 5, we continue to get a positive net income, so we balanced out with $3 million and then earned on top of that $5 million, which nets out to about $8 million. And that tax break in quarter 4 actually helped us out where we were able to get more revenues than we thought and had that high net income. Also, on the next slide, on the balance sheet, like Houston touched on, debt across the board is 0. We didn't want to take on any debt because we thought just with one quarter being negative cash flow that we would be able to be fine without having to pay that 7% interest on top of all of the costs and the operations that we're already putting in. Also, in our cash, you can see that that doubles almost every quarter, and that's stemming from the current assets, not the long-term assets. Those stay pretty consistent. So the long-term assets, like I said, are consistent. The current assets are continuing to grow, and that really shows what we're investing into our company is paying off with the revenues. So now I'm going to hand it back over to David.
Thanks, Ellie. So at TechGo, we're a very innovative product that is simple for our consumers because consumers are everything to our company. As everybody touched on, we really, did okay in the first couple of quarters, but we wanted to grow this company, which as investors, you guys can appreciate. So if you look, as she touched on, that, we had a negative cash flow in quarter 4, which, didn't worry us at all because we were very focused on innovating our products and, going back into our company. So here at TechGo, we thank you for listening to our presentation, and we hope that you invest in our company.